Hello, you crazy scientists. Today we're talking about food chains and food webs. The food chain is the straight line in which the sun gives plants life and food, and then those plants become food for something else. The food web is when every animal and plant is interconnected, so it all starts with the sun, and then you start to see that different animals eat different types of plants and grasses. We call those plants and grasses producers. They produce their own food. The things that eat those plants and grasses are called consumers, and they eat the plants and grasses, and they also can sometimes eat other consumers. Here's our food chain anchor chart. Everything starts with the sun. Then the sun gives energy to the producers, which are the plants. Plants make their own food. Then primary consumers eat those plants, such as a mouse might eat some grass. Then you have secondary consumers. Those are larger animals, and what they'll do is they will eat the primary consumers. So a snake may eat a mouse. Lastly, you have the decomposers. These are the things that cause animals and creatures and things to break apart and return back to the earth.
It's time for vocabulary.
Food chain, the transfer of food energy from one organism to another. The food web, a diagram that shows the relationship between different food chains in an ecosystem. Producer, an organism that uses sunlight to make its own food for energy through photosynthesis. Consumer, an organism that eats other organisms for energy. Photosynthesis, the process which producers, plants, make their own food using energy from the sun, water, chlorophyll, and carbon dioxide. Dependent, to need plants, other animals, or specific environmental factors to survive. Decomposer, an organism that breaks down matter into simpler substances. Interdependence, the dependence of two or more organisms on each other to survive. Now we're going to be watching a video on food chains. These are the short portion of the food webs. A food web is made of many small food chains.
We know that living things either make their own energy or they eat other things to get the energy that they need. We can show how energy is passed from one living thing to another in a simple drawing called a food chain. Let's make a food chain based on a few living things in this meadow. This green grass is a producer. Grasses, like all plants, produce their own food from the sun's light energy. So, our food chain begins with grass. You observe. What is this rabbit eating? This rabbit is eating grass. Rabbits are consumers. They must eat other things for their energy. In our food chain, an arrow is drawn from the grass to the rabbit. It shows that the rabbit eats the grass. Now, hawks are birds that eat animals for food, and some hawks eat rabbits. So, we can place an arrow from the rabbit to the hawk, completing our simple food chain.
Next here we have the food web, and the food web is made of many food chains. It's how all the animals and plants and the sun are connected to each other.
We just took a look at a simple food chain in a meadow. You observe. What other living things do you see in this meadow? That's right. You see other types of plants and insects. In fact, there are many different plants animals, and other living things in the meadow. Instead of a chain, a food web is a much more detailed way to show the relationship between producers, consumers, and decomposers. Notice how there are many lines that cross each other, forming a web. Food webs are a much more realistic way to show how living things interact with each other.
So we learned that the food chain starts with the sun. It goes from the sun to a producer that can produce its own food, and then consumers go and eat those producers, and then some consumers go and eat other consumers. And then all put together, this creates the food web. That's how the sun and all the animals are related to each other. Lastly, we have your exit ticket. Lamphere out. Look at this picture of this food web. You have a fox, a rabbit, owl, a mouse, grass, and seeds. If the rabbit population decreases or goes down, how could this food web be affected? F. The owl population would increase or go up. G. The mice will start eating owls. H. The foxes may eat more mice. Or J. The fox population will increase or go up.